Hold up. Before y'all head to the comments and start writing, "You biased motherfucker, you don't know what you're talking about," remember, I'm a huge One Piece fan. My channel picture, banner, and most of my content is about One Piece. So, did I just clickbait you into this video with a ridiculous title? Not exactly. I'm not talking about the story, the animation, or the characters, but the fights. The long battle arcs that we have come to love that gave us so many iconic moments. As the story has moved more and more towards the use of hockey in every fight, the variety and specialization that was in pre-timeskip fights is lost. One Piece fights for the longest time, pre-timeskip, followed the same pattern that most shonen animes followed. They were a collection of one-on-one fights which showed character development along with a battle strength increase either before or during the fight. But they also had some characteristics that were unique to One Piece. Take the Alabasta arc for example. We start at Whiskey Peak, which is in my opinion one of the most underrated fights in all of One Piece. We see Zoro just toying with the bounty hunters, then suddenly Straw Hats come across Robin, who is Miss All Sunday at the time, and creates intrigue about the true nature of Baroque works. There's also Vivi and her role in trying to stop Baroque works as the princess of this kingdom of Alabasta, a kingdom that we have not seen and quite frankly have no reason to give a shit about. Oda gives all of these questions hints to a puzzle that we don't understand yet, which makes us curious as to what is going to happen next. We are then taken to Little Garden, where there are more mysterious characters in Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week. They speak of a plan which we assume is to take over the country of Alabasta, but we still don't know how or why. And here we see Sanji doing some Sekmail, Mr. Prince nonsense and confusing the shit out of Crocodile. It's this mix of comedy, mystery, and constant introduction of new characters that makes us more and more interested in the story of Vivi and her quest to save the kingdom, but also in the fights. We see like 4 new devil fruits in one island, while we see like 4 in total before they enter the Grand Line. After a small pit stop on a snowy island to pick up our favorite reindeer, they head straight to Alabasta. And by the time the Straw Hats and Vivi reach Alabasta, complete their journey through the desert, we become connected with Vivi and her ideal of saving Alabasta, giving the fight purpose. Anyone can animate and choreograph an amazing fight in anime, with enough money of course. But to make a truly great fight, a fight that gives us goosebumps just thinking back to it, it needs to have a purpose, a good background music, and characters that are connected to the cause of the fight. An important detail that is now almost forgotten is that the idea that the Logia Devil Fruit users can be defeated started in Alabasta. Although we saw Dragon stopping Smoker, we just remember him being basically unbeatable for the Straw Hats. But with the Ace vs Smoker skirmish, we were given the idea that there are elements that can be used to the disadvantage of a Logia power. This was then taken to the next level with Luffy covering himself in water to defeat Crocodile. Although they only use this technicality once and is basically phased out by the use of Haki, it was still the first defeat of Logia and gave us the idea that they are very strong but not immortal. Also, the pattern of mystery doesn't stop with the end of the arc. The end of the arc brought us the first glimpse of the world outside of what the Straw Hats saw. It showed us that the world government had their layers of good, bad, and ugly. We also got our first glance at poneglyphs and how they contain information regarding a long forgotten past. We don't know the significance of that past yet, but that's part of the fun. The expansion into the wider world gave us the exploratory feel that we associate One Piece with. For most arcs after the time skip, it was already premeditated where they were going to go after the end of the arc and kind of took away from the open nature, exploratory feel from the story. Did you also realize this? We went from Whiskey Peak to Little Garden to Drum Island and then ended in Alabasta. The whole arc had so much story progression along with many fights. This whole arc happened in 66 episodes. Compare that to the Dressrosa arc, which took 166 episodes and maybe 1/4 the fights that the Alabasta had. Before we dive into all the problems the Dressrosa arc had, let's talk about some things that were really good in it. The intro for the G5 Marine unit was one of the dopest intros in all of One Piece. The mystery and curiosity around the island of ice and fire and how it might relate to the Admiral's fight, also dragons and a pair of talking legs. Sidebar, I also want to be a centaur, but do you ever wonder that if you have legs attached to your ass, then you wouldn't be able to shit anymore? Or do you think the shit will travel to the end of the second ass? Let me know what you think in the comments, but back to the video. The fight between Law vs Smoker, Monet vs Zoro, and Virgo vs Smoker and Law were really good. They were short and explosive, but also introduced the characters and how they changed after the 2-year break. But the Caesar fight started to feel a little drawn out. Obviously, we see a lot worse when it comes to drawn out fights. There are 2 things that piss me off about the Dressrosa arc. Reason number 1, boiling every issue that arc had down to, it's the anime pacing and not Oda's fault. Because the problem of pacing that was present during the Dressrosa arc is even more pressing now that Oda is putting fewer and fewer chapters each year. So why is it not spoken that much during the Wano arc or even the Whole Cake Island arc? I actually have to give credit to the anime team because I think it's a collaborative effort between Oda and them. They also get a lot of flack for not having like the Demon Slayer level animation, which is fair sometimes, but people also have to understand that One Piece is a continuously running anime, not something broken into seasons, which severely limits animators. So how did they do it? During the Dressrosa arc, any backstory that was needed for the context of a fight or help understand a character was just dumped at the start of a fight. But the drawback of that is that the fights started feeling drawn out and had no breaks in the middle. We see the entire history of Doflamingo from his family leaving the Holy Land to him becoming the king of Dressrosa in a short span. There were other backstories from King Riku's point of view or Roshinante's point of view, but those were also compact and felt underutilized. I do think this was done to try and make each arc's main fight more and more like the Marineford battle, but that is not possible each time. I'm primarily a manga reader, but I still like watching the anime, so I was waiting for Gear 4, but by the time it showed up, it didn't feel as hype as it should have. Now compare that to Whole Cake or Wano. The past of important side characters like Katakuri and King are detached from the main antagonist and making them feel more relevant and relatable. I think that's why personally I was more hyped for the Snake Man version of Gear 4 than the initial intro of Gear 4. And obviously it's not completely solved because there are still instances where the anime feels drawn out, but it is much better than the Dressrosa arc nonsense. And they've also improved the animation, which is a big win. The second reason actually has to do with me and you. I have come across so many One Piece fans who have become disinterested during the Dressrosa arc, or took the attitude of, oh, I'ma just grind through it after the arc ends. And most hardcore fans like me, for a long time, were telling others to power through it. And that's definitely not the right attitude for a fan. We should not tell someone that they should continue to spend time and money towards a piece of entertainment if we don't believe it's good. This isn't homework, we should never force someone to watch anime. My solution to most people after I realized my mistake was to tell them to read the manga for this arc because I knew it would get better in the later arcs and I knew they were invested fans because they stuck around for 600 episodes and then left. One Piece fights have gone from exploring new and interesting subjects like the Logia Devil Fruits and Poneglyphs in the Alabasta and Skypiea arcs to being these massive spectacles of many fights rolled into one. Most shonen anime can only have one really big showdown with that many characters, but One Piece has done it successfully with the Enies Lobby, Marineford, and current Wano arc. Although the Fishman and Dressrosa arcs did have issues with their animation and fight pacing, in the grand scheme of things, they're still very relevant as the Fishman Island set up the Whole Cake arc and Dressrosa set up Wano. And I don't think it's hypocritical to say that One Piece is the greatest anime ever, but also has flaws. One Piece is the greatest because it has every flavor of entertainment that a human can imagine. And yes, it does have some problems, but it never makes the same mistake twice because Oda is Goda. And if you want to see more examples of Goda working his magic to make us fall in love with the Straw Hats, watch this video.